I think it's a technical way, the way I understand it, and it has to do more with IT, technology kind of. Generally, I will not use startup for somebody who's trying to start a business selling cassava or opening a provision shop. Not in that strict sense, because if your sister starts selling wache, she has no idea what they call startup or starting business, So
Yeah, but she's starting up, right?
no,
So
no.
it
Uh,
doesn't tolerate.
on
Okay.
a very high level, when I watch, some of these people and they are talking of startup, they are talking of incubation, those technical
Mhm.
ways, in the different, even in Ghana, when anybody starts a business and they look for funding from some of these countries, most of them are IT kind of business, like what Lolly Cash is doing, they build some of those. But if I start a construction company, I mean, most people will not say. So maybe a startup as in you starting a business, yes, but on a higher technical level, I think it has to do more with IT, kind of, not traditional businesses per se. I think you starting a business, it's just you have begun a concept, you are testing a model, and I am of not the IT category. I am of more, construction, property development, retail,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So it's an idea that comes to you that you start a business, So if you want to sell wache, you start sell a wache. So for me, startup has to do more with technical, you know, businesses, especially the IT side.
Okay. Doc-
The part I took, you complete school, you want to be independent, uh, you want to take charge of your life, and so you start. All right, and it's not defined. It's something that you are testing. So you try this, it does not work. You try this, it does not work. I think it depends on the expertise, the exposure, sometimes even financial ability of whoever is involved. If you take a typical graduate who has no connection, who has no mother, father, who wants to start something, uh, the former definition will be you have a concept, you write a business plan, you're looking for somebody to support you. All right. And I think a lot of our people are locked in that kind of thinking where they are hoping that somebody else will pick their concept and develop it. I think when you are thinking of business, you should understand where you are, the advantages that you have, and maybe the disadvantages that you have, so that you can pitch something that works. All right. And I think some of these, the English that we speak, the technical words that we use, uh, can choke our minds. And I am more of the results than just the discussions. So sometimes the terminologies, the way we look at things can lock a lot of our people. And so they follow an idea for 10 years and they still not be able to get one penny from it because of the way. So I would say that any idea, any need in your community that your friend who didn't go to school has been able to do and has been able to employ people or even employ himself. Look at those. It shouldn't be fanciful. It just has to solve a problem, in your community. Maybe you want to start to pick waste. Maybe you want to start a restaurant, or maybe you want to even go to Makola and pick secondhand clothes and repackage them and sell. What you need is do people need what you want, or do people need what you're offering? Is there a need for it? Can they pay for it? For me, that is where it starts. And if you can meet a need, you have a business, and what you would want to
oh,
call a startup.
all right. Okay. Startups fail. So, Mr. Obeng, over to you. Why do startups fail, or in your opinion and experience, what you have seen so far in your journey, what would you say is one of the reasons why startups fail?
If your definition of a startup is where you're building a concept and you bring people on board and hopefully that business will grow to become a big business, then that's different. But if you are like me, your concept is very key. the kind of business that you want to go into is very key. How the cash flows in that business is also very key. Example, if somebody wants to start a business in Ghana and he says that I want to become a contractor, and he starts to chase a government contract, you are on a path that you struggle. Why? Because if a government, even before the government gives you contract, some people will do some things before they give you the contract. And if you're unlucky, they will not even give you mobilization. You have to go to the bank and take a loan. And you may have to work for 3, 6, 7 months before they start to pay you. Now, if you're a young man and you go through this path, you are so likely to fail, or you're likely to become a criminal. But if you start to sell, let's say, maybe you start a kelewele or berry and beans business in an area that you have a lot of young men, you may not have to start with much. You may even just start with 1,000 cedis. And because a lot of people would want to come and buy from you, they want that you open that business, you start to see money. I think most businesses struggle because they run out of money, and there's not much demand for it. And so if you don't position the business well, you're likely to fail. The other thing will be the kind of people that you start the business with. You had a friend who was just intelligent in school, and he said, let's team up and start a business. And, business is tough. A lot of things will happen. Difficulties will come up. If that person is not built or has not built him or herself for this kind of, pain, they will give up on you, and that will call for failure. Sometimes even government institutions like in our country can frustrate you, say that you give up on your dream. Sometimes even your family can talk you out of you pursuing a particular business. So the things that will call for failure or business failure, maybe lack of clarity, the way you design the business, the kind of business that you started, the person, you as a person, what was your resolve? Were you determined to go through it no matter what? Or you were just testing, and if it doesn't work, you go and look for a job, So if you have not shifted your mind from just looking for salary and a good life, or going after this dream to say, I want to own a business, I want to own this company, and no matter what happens, I'm still going to stay at it until it works. That kind of mentality, if you have not developed it, you're likely to give up. And some of the businesses that we started that didn't work, some of these things came up, So bad team, bad design, concept, lack of cash flow, can easily make you give up or can easily let the business fail.
Profit from your business. What do you think? Do you think this is feasible for a startup?
I am in Ghana. That's you see. So the definition of a startup is really very important. Even in Ghana, there is a section of Ghanaian young men like you, whose understanding of business is incubation kind of business. American kind of concept. But if you go to our market, if you go to Pokompe, if you go to your area, if what we are discussing involves them, then you have to really have to situate the kind of category, the group that you are talking to. The group that you are talking to is key, because sometimes you will say that if doctor is starting a business in Ghana, he probably will go to a very nice area, get an office.
Indefinitely.
He's educated. He will write. He will process a lot of things. A lot of things will be defined. But in Ghana, for instance, 80 or more % of the people who start businesses may not even have to start with any capital base, if you want, in its strictest sense. He just has to survive. So he goes to the street and he starts to sell on his head. There's no plan. But that person, 2-3 years, will come up and start a shop. And from the shop, he may open another shops. And he may never have gone through that. So in terms of profitability, don't expect anything. I agree with him.
Or like a bad partnership could play a role in any kind of way to make a startup fail. What do you think, Mr. Obeng?
Yes, yes, yes. I think if the concept is working and is needed, the next thing will be the kind of people that you work with. If they are very good, you will go through. If they are wrong people, you will struggle. And every team, every dream requires a team. But the experience, the exposure, the character, the resilience of the team is very key. So some people will go through a lot of phases, and the business starts to work, and they start to fight. you know they start to bring maybe their sister in, their brothers in. Their brother will say that, oh, so
So
enough for
wait,
that.
are you trying to say families cannot be involved in startups? Friends cannot be involved in
No, I'm not
startups?
saying that. I'm saying that
Okay.
you and your friend, you started business. You went through a lot
Mhm.
of problems, and now the business starts to work. And then your friend's sister will see. Maybe you buy a new shoe, So the team is key. If you're able to pick the right people, I think is one of the best elements for the business to work. If you don't have the right people, then I would suggest that maybe in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you go alone. Just depend on some people to help you. But if you're going to form partnership, as in ownership, people must have some level of maturity, some level of expertise. Because really, why the business failed was because you were not up to it. There is a development process for you as an entrepreneur. It has to get to a stage where your decisions are right. Your decisions on the market, on the customers, on the money, on the product, everything is right. Then the business starts to make sense. The business starts to work. Because you are evolving, you are going to make a lot of errors. And that is what most of it will bring the failure, which means that if you have somebody who will cover up in terms of some of the errors that you carry, then you have a better decision-making machine, and that will position the business to work. So the kind of people that you bring on board, either partners or employees, will make the business work or will make the business fail. And most people, the business will fail because of the kind of mindset that the people have in terms of let's come together and work, or we come together and fight. Most of our people will come together, and instead of them to focus on the dream, they are rather fighting, and then the dream will fail. I think it's more of the training also, and the culture. There are a lot of bitter experiences where people bring family people in their businesses, and all kind of things happen. But I think it's more of the culture, it's more of the training
Mhm.
to
Very
get what you
interesting.
want. So if you start to do that with the intention that I want my children to be part, then they have to go through it as as employees. I mean, they see you work. So if before you even give them anything significant in the business, they should prove that they can handle that. They have the strength. So maybe if you have more than one, then maybe one of them will show that kind of tendencies. But I agree with them. I agree with Doctor that if you are going to keep them there, they have to prove that
So
they,
yes, they need
they
to prove that they merit that position, not just come and
that's right. They have
waste
to, yeah,
decades of sweat and ups and downs, and in 2 3 months the business is collapsed after you are no longer okay. This is very interesting.
yeah.
All right. So earlier on, we had a lady who dropped a comment asking if NGOs fall under startup categories. I hope she's still with us and she's still watching. She also later mentioned that NGOs are considered, non-profit kind of businesses. So, do you think that they could be considered also as a startup, or maybe a sort of category of startup? Dr. Cash, I will start with you on this one.
Yes, so NGOs are all businesses. The only difference is that they are not for profit, right? And there are people who are doing charity work, but they are still registered businesses. So the fact that you are in a business that indirectly you are not in with the goal of making money for yourself, you are still a business for example, you were a church. If you started a church 6 months ago or 3 months ago, you are still an NGO, or you help the orphanage. You are still a business. Just that your goal is not to make money for yourself. So you will still be considered as a startup, irrespective of whether you are making money or not. So yes, you to answer the question, yes, you are considered as such.
Startup. Okay. Mr. Obeng, what is your thought on this?
NGOs. Anyway, they they call some people social entrepreneurs and all that. Yes, maybe they qualify as startups if you want. If you want, I
Not
hardly
for me,
use
for the
those terms
viewers, for
as
the viewers who want answers, who wants to know if clearly or not, if they fall or might be considered.
I didn't hear that.
No, I mean the viewers, of course, the lady who dropped the comment. I believe she wants like a definite answer that yes or no, it's here or not. Yeah. So she said, I am asking. So sorry, one minute. She said, I am asking because they are usually considered as non-profit and aren't business. So yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, they're non-profit and not, but if you go to register it, I mean, you're supposed to run everything as a business. The only thing is that when you're filing those taxes, it will be different, than somebody who is strictly making profit. And so you can't run an NGO as non-business. You really have to run. You really have to do things as accurate as any other.
So
but
legally,
for me, one of the things.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Say
go
it
ahead.
again. So for me, if you look at most of our graduates, educated people, the people who speak English, a lot of the terms and a lot of the cultures conflict. All right. So, for instance, if you go to school, a lot of the things that they teach us, and you come to our environment and you really want to run something, you see that most of your mates will find it difficult to pick a business and run. And yet, those that you left at the JSS level are fighting because the culture and the government setting, the financial setting in our economy, and the kind of terms and the things that they taught us in school, I think they don't meet. So you are better off to pick these teachings and go to, say, Singapore or America and try to fit, and it may work faster. Instead of us to lift and build something that works for us, we try to hang it on our neck. For instance, our government institutions think like that. So even if you look at our taxes and everything, we are trying to copy England. And yet the culture, the majority of the people that run businesses don't understand a lot of these settings. So they constrict, we are cut off from growing or even starting businesses because we have not been able to build systems, structures, institutions with what we have. You build with the content of what you have, And so when we are talking like these terminologies, majority of the people who follow this kind of approach find it difficult to build proper businesses. So you see that even our retailers, major retailers are not Ghanaians. If you come major developers, construction companies, finance companies, they're not Ghanaians. Why? Because there is a separation. So we have to find a way to define things for ourselves and to make sure that we build protocols that are really with us in mind. So I try to I'm trying to see, so does this make sense? Can we work with this? These definitions, can we work with this? For instance, if you come to property, we are in property development. If I meet anybody who is in property development in, say, England, and he comes, the terms they use, the approach, the mortgage, and the funding, if you use that here, it won't work. You may not have access to that. And even if they give you funding here, it may be 30%. Now, if you want to develop apartment and somebody gives you 30%, you are going to commit suicide. But in their environment, they have things that fit there. So I'm trying to say that at what point are we able to define things in our own terms so that we can, and even examples, our own examples that fit, because that way we'll be able to get a lot of the young minds to build businesses, because then they will be close to reality. They will have defined things in their mind, because the things that we have gone through, if we look at the examples, the global examples, you may not be able to fit here.
Interesting.
But if you
Okay.
look at if you look at the examples here, then maybe you can build it to a certain point before you start to look at the global examples. And a lot of times when you meet young boys and they are talking, I can see that you will not win, you will fail, because your mind is so far from the reality.
From reality. Okay. Thank you for that contribution. Thank you very much, Eric Pope. Mr. Obeng, over to you in 5 minutes before we wrap up. Tell us about yourself, what you do, and your last take on what you think people or young people who are into startups, even old people who are starting up, what is your take, what is your advice to them in order not to fail in 5 minutes?
Okay, in order not to fail, you will fail, and be ready for it. If you don't want to fail, don't start to
I like
become
that,
a
yeah.
You are going to go through a lot of problems and challenges. It's because you are evolving, you are developing, just like a child walking, you will learn. So if you don't want to fail and you're perfect, then go and become, some an environment where you don't have to fail, but you will still. But if you want to build a business, it's not that nice. You go through a lot, and so you have to be ready for it and give yourself at least 10 years to become giant in anything that you're doing. The chance, if you're able to succeed before that, fantastic, but it takes a while, and you have to aim for the big figures. And so, and it matters what industry you go in. And if you have no support, nobody, then don't go into product-based businesses where you have to take time to develop the product before you take it to the market. If you have no support, nothing, don't go there. Go to the places where somebody has developed a product and you go to the market to sell. I am for that. Before, after a while, you gather money and go into production if you want. But if you have no support, nothing, go and sell something that you get money. It's a business, And for me, it's the easiest way, especially if you're in our country. And don't go and take somebody's loan to start a business at 30% a year. Start little with what you have and grow with it. You can be very ambitious, but start little. Don't go and take somebody's 100,000 at 30% and say, I want to open a very big shop, go and rent, and you have never sold. It will be a problem. It took a while for us to get to wherever that we think we are. So I would say that be tough-minded, be ready, and don't look for magic and miracles. Be ready for it. Use your mind. Use your mind to solve problems and reduce superstition and reduce complaining. The government has done this, government has done that. No, be somebody who wants to win. And a winner's mindset is different from a loser. The loser is waiting for somebody to help them. Winner is enough to go and fight. And they are not crying. They are not waiting that in Ghana nothing works. Don't talk like that. If you talk like that, you will not succeed. There's a certain level of thinking that you have to be for you to work. And if you meet challenges, don't panic. Be there and solve them. If you can't solve them today, or if you don't solve them today, tomorrow, go and try again. But be a person who is resolved to win. And business is not for the weak-minded, So that's what I would say. I am an entrepreneur, I'm an author. I have 3 books. One of it is Resilience. It's actually how to build the mindset, the courage and strength to start a business. It takes a lot because your friends are going to look for government work. I have perspective. Is develop the mindset to build your business. And this is about financial information. If your financial knowledge is not right, you will mess up. And most of us went to school without any financial knowledge. So once the money starts to come, you want to go and buy a land, you want to change your iPhone, you want to change and meanwhile, the business needs a lot of money to grow. So you focus on growing the business to a stage where if you take something from it, it will still survive, And for us, our environment is entirely different from what you see in the movies and what you see in the books. Ghana's environment is different, and you really have to learn it by yourself. If you just copy and paste it here, you will crash and you run away. The culture is different, the workers are different, the government structure is different. Our government institutions are not built to promote businesses and innovation. They are built, we have not built any system that promotes businesses, and especially local businesses. We just have a system that is there, we are passionate, but nobody's there ready to help you to grow. So you must have that kind of thinking that this is the environment. And as at the same time, our environment is the best to start any business because the regulations are not so much cantankerous, but you're going to go through a lot of difficulties to grow that business, even though it is very easy for you to start. The growth stage takes a lot of strength. So it's a whole different kind of education, and never be afraid to fail and fall. If you owe somebody, when they call you, pick. Don't cut the phone.
I personally, I will not pick if I owe you, Mr. Obeng. If you call me, I'll just turn my phone upside down and put it on silent. But by the way, where can we find your book to buy? Is it on Amazon? Is it in a bookstore?
Yes.
Is there an audio version of it?
They are on Amazon. So Kindle version is there, and the other copy is there. In Ghana, you can get them from our shops in the malls. So MV is our shop. You go to Accra Mall, Achimota Mall, you can get copies there as well.
Is there? Can we get some in Makola or somewhere, KJTR or any other places?
On that one, you have to call us for us to send it to you. And we have a YouTube channel.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we have Facebook, Obeng Darko. We share some of these things because our young people need this. A lot of our young people think that it's impossible to be successful in Ghana. A lot of them are even waiting for capital, and nobody will give you any capital. So if you have iPhone, which is 1,005, and you're waiting for capital, you're sleeping. If you're waiting for a government job, IMF is telling them not to employ anybody this year. So start to do something for yourself. You may want to travel, but that is not the solution. The solution is you having a dream for yourself to say that I want to stay with this and becoming the person who can realize that dream. And be much optimistic and positive about our continent. The negativity is too much.
Okay, this I agree with.